Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi concluded his three-nation African tour with a visit to Zimbabwe, where he was welcomed by President Emerson Mnangagwa. The trip highlights Iran's efforts to forge new partnerships with African nations in the face of heavy U.S. sanctions. Both countries already have a joint permanent commission on political and trade relations, and they share historical ties, with Mnangagwa expressing gratitude for Iran's support during Zimbabwe's liberation war. During the visit, about 12 memorandums of understanding were signed, covering various sectors such as agriculture, energy, and telecommunications, including plans to establish a tractor manufacturing plant in Zimbabwe. Supporters gathered at the airport to welcome Raisi, waving flags and holding placards, while also criticizing Western interference in Zimbabwe. In Uganda, Raisi had criticized Western nations' support for LGBTQ+ rights and praised Uganda's anti-gay legislation, seeing it as an opportunity for cooperation between Iran and Uganda. Although Zimbabwe also has anti-gay laws, Mnangagwa has not expressed strong opposition to homosexuality like his predecessor, Robert Mugabe. This visit by Raisi marks the first by an Iranian leader to Zimbabwe since 2010, when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad visited the country. Protesters took to the streets of Tunis on Thursday, demanding the release of opposition members imprisoned under Tunisian President Kais Saied's rule. Around 20 individuals, including politicians, business leaders, and journalists, have been arrested since February on charges of plotting against state security. Critics argue that these arrests are politically motivated and reflect a broader political crisis in the country. Demonstrators gathered outside the Court of Appeal, denouncing a judiciary they perceive as being under the control of the executive. Md Kamiri, spokesperson for the Islamist Ennahda Party and a member of the main opposition coalition, called the imprisonments a reflection of Tunisia's suffocating political crisis, but emphasized that they will not silence free voices. The arrests have sparked international concern, with European parliamentarians opposing any unconditional agreement between the European Union and Tunisia due to President Saied's actions. Amnesty International has criticized the arrests, describing them as a politically motivated witch hunt, highlighting how detainees were questioned about their interactions with foreign diplomats and media interviews. The draws for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers have been unveiled for African teams, with 9 groups of 6 teams each. The new competition format adopted by FIFA ensures that at least 9 African countries will represent the continent in the tournament held in the USA, Canada, and Mexico. Morocco, the highest-ranked African team in the latest FIFA rankings, is expected to dominate Group F, with Zambia posing the greatest threat. Senegal, seeking their 3rd consecutive World Cup appearance, faces competition from the rapidly improving Democratic Republic of Congo in Group B. In Group C, longtime rivals Nigeria and South Africa will clash, along with Zimbabwe, who recently had their FIFA ban lifted. With the expansion of the number of finalists from 32 to 48, Africa is guaranteed a record 9 places, possibly even 10. The group winners will secure automatic qualification, while the best 4 runners-up will enter playoffs for a chance to qualify for the Interconfederation playoffs. Cherubin Okend, a prominent opposition figure, deputy, and former minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, was found dead in Kinshasa with multiple gunshot wounds. Okend, a member of presidential candidate Moise Katumbi's party, was discovered in his car on a main avenue in the city. The government has condemned the assassination and ordered a thorough investigation. The killing comes at a time of heightened political tension in the country, as elections are scheduled to take place later this year. Okend, who resigned as Minister of Transport last December along with 2 other pro-Katumbi ministers, was a key figure in Katumbi's presidential campaign. Katumbi recently announced his candidacy and withdrew his party from the ruling coalition. President Felix Tshisekedi, who has been in power since January 2019, is also running for re-election. Several opposition figures, including Katumbi, have expressed concerns about the impartiality of the electoral authorities and fear that biased elections could lead to fraud and chaos. As of now, over a dozen opponents have declared their intention to run against President Tshisekedi. Ghana is set to open a new oil refinery facility in Tema by the end of August with an investment of $1.98 billion from the Sensuo Group. The refinery aims to produce 5 million metric tons of petroleum products, including liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, jet fuel, gasoline, diesel, and fuel oil. Ghana's Minister of Trade and Industry, KT Hammond, confirmed that discussions are underway with the Ministry of Energy to secure 500,000 barrels of crude oil from Ghana's oil fields for the refinery's initial production. By 2025, the refinery plans to refine 4.26 million tons of high-quality refined petroleum products, exceeding the Euro 4 standard. Additionally, it aims to produce various byproducts such as pitch products, lubricating base oil, solvent naphtha, polypropylene, ammonium sulfate, sulfuric acid, and sulfur. Ghana, known for its rapidly growing hydrocarbon market, aims to double its production by the end of 2023. The new refinery in Tema will contribute significantly to the country's domestic petroleum production capacity and support its energy goals, enhancing self-sufficiency in the sector and potentially opening up new opportunities for the country's economic growth. The Netflix series Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story has received 13 Emmy nominations, leaving actor Niecy Nash-Betts stunned but ecstatic about the recognition. Nash-Betts herself is nominated for Best Supporting Actress in a limited or anthology series or movie for her portrayal of Glenda Cleveland. The series also secured nominations for Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series or Movie, as well as acting nods for Evan Peters and Richard Jenkins, and directing nominations for Carl Franklin and Paris Barkley. Reflecting on the nominations, Nash-Betts expressed her happiness for being acknowledged in multiple roles and for the industry recognizing her versatility. She mentioned the surprise of the series becoming a phenomenon and being embraced by a large audience. Nash-Betts credited the supportive cast and crew for their dedication in bringing the challenging project to completion. The Emmy Awards ceremony is scheduled for Monday, September 18th, where the winners will be announced, and Nash-Betts and the Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story team will eagerly await the results. The UN support mission in Libya, MANIL, has expressed concern over the growing incidence of abductions, detentions, and enforced disappearances in the country. The mission warned that these actions were creating a climate of fear and tension. Former Finance Minister Faraj Abderrahmane Boumtari was among those recently arrested, prompting his tribe, the Zouaya, to threaten a blockade of oil terminals if he is not released. The situation in Libya remains volatile since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi's regime in 2011, with ongoing divisions between the eastern and western parts of the country. Two rival governments, one in Tripoli recognized by the UN and led by Abdulhamid Dbeibeh, and another in the east supported by Marshal Khalifa Haftar, have been vying for power. The latest developments, including the blocking of oil fields and the restriction of travel for members of the High Council of State, are exacerbating tensions and hindering efforts for national reconciliation and transparent elections. The UN mission has called on Libyan authorities and security bodies to release all arbitrarily detained individuals and ensure independent investigations into the abductions. The situation highlights the challenges Libya faces in achieving stability and unity amidst ongoing political and security struggles. The International Criminal Court, ICC, has launched a new investigation into alleged war crimes in Sudan due to escalating violence. This comes as the conflict between feuding generals has led to thousands of deaths and the displacement of millions of people. The ICC will focus on crimes against humanity, war crimes, and sexual and gender-based crimes. Former leader Omar al-Bashir, who has already been charged with genocide, is among those implicated. However, the situation remains volatile, with ongoing fighting and a lack of accountability for atrocities. The ICC's investigation aims to bring justice and shed light on the grave violations occurring in Sudan. South Africa's government has pledged to support its largest companies, including MTN and Vodacom, amidst challenges and extortion by African governments. The country aims to present a unified front when operating on the continent and maximize business opportunities by creating a platform for South African companies to share experiences and ideas. Companies such as Vodacom and MTN have faced disputes in countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Cameroon, with allegations of unjust taxes and asset freezes. The South African government expressed concern over the lack of uniform rules and guidelines in Africa, calling for the African Union to adopt protocols on how companies and investors should be treated. They plan to raise these concerns with the continental body and address difficulties in repatriating funds from certain markets. Specific industry issues, including telecommunications, energy, and infrastructure, will be addressed through working groups, fostering collaboration between executives and government officials. In Senegal, young men continue to dream of a better life in Europe, despite the dangers of the treacherous journey to Spain's Canary Islands. With limited job opportunities and financial struggles, many see migration as the only solution. Crossing the Atlantic in overloaded canoes known as pirogues is the most perilous route, but attempts have surged as alternative paths have become more challenging. However, the risks are significant, and there have been reports of missing boats carrying hundreds of migrants. Poverty and boredom are cited as major motivators for young people seeking opportunities abroad. Industrial-scale fishing agreements with foreign trawlers have reduced fish stocks and contributed to economic hardships. Despite the dangers, the dreams of those who successfully make the journey and find work in Europe continue to fuel aspirations among the younger generation. Families support their loved ones, hoping for their success and the possibility of financial support being sent back home. Authorities and community leaders are faced with the challenge of curbing irregular migration while recognizing the underlying economic and social factors driving it.